Okay, where's Italy?
It's
It's the boot. Here's Italy. That's where we're going to start because that's the center of our world, right?
I'd say America.
Ian, pick that up.
Can we? Whichever one you want. To the east, the northeast, if you will, of Italy is a sea called the Adriatic Sea. It's important that you know this. Yes, you should be labeling everything that I tell you on your map.
With color?
With whatever. Adriatic is A-D-R-I-A-T-I-C. Rome is approximately at the knee of Italy. If you assume that Italy is a a long boot, Rome is about halfway in the middle. What's that?
Is it next to the mountain?
Is it north?
No.
To the Tiber River?
It's on the Tiber River.
Is it by the Austria?
Oh, that's a river, not a mountain.
Yeah, this is a river going through central Italy called the Tiber River, T-I-B-E-R. As you know from your world history studies in 8th grade and possibly beyond, ancient civilizations grew up around bodies of water, particularly bodies of water that flowed out toward even larger bodies of water, right? So the civilization of Egypt grew up around the Nile River. The civilizations in India grew up around the, what's that?
The Indus Valley.
Yes, the Indus Valley civilizations, etc. All right, Mesopotamia. Yes, all these civilizations grew up in the shadow of a really tremendous river that emptied into a really tremendous part of water because they could only sail, right? There were no cars or airplanes back then. So in order to trade, you had to be near a waterway. So here's Rome on the western coast of Italy, give or take. Rome itself is not on the coast. There is a coast city that's at the mouth of the Tiber River. And because it's at the mouth of the Tiber River, it has a name that is like the word mouth in Latin. Ostia. O-S-T-I-A.
I think one of the kings, was it Marcus?
Yep. All right, so things that we have identified so far. The Adriatic Sea, we've identified the city of Rome, the Tiber River, the port of Ostia. Yep. Yep.
It's messing up my
This is the Tiber on this map.
Is it okay if we only label countries?
No, you need to label seas and cities too. You need to know all of this. I'm sorry. You can make yourself a key, a legend, if you will. All right, in between Italy and these islands, there's another smaller sea, an offshoot of the Mediterranean. Anyone know what it's called?
Red, black.
Nope, it's not a color.
Oh, wait.
No?
She just said it's not a color.
I always spell this wrong.
Tiber.
The Tyrrhenian Sea.
Tyranny.
I was going to say that.
Wait, where is
The Tyrrhenian Sea is here between Italy and these islands.
You usually spell it.
Well, I'm not even 100% sure if that's right. I always spell it wrong. I don't know if there are two H's or two R's. That's what always perplexes me.
Two R's looks good.
I think so too. I'm gonna go with two R's for today. We'll figure out the rest of it later. All right, go ahead. Two islands that are just west of Italy.
Sardinia and
Corsica. That's what you said. Sardinia and what?
Corsica.
Right. So Corsica is the smaller one and Sardinia is the larger one. Students in the past have remembered the difference between Corsica and Sardinia because Corsica is north.
Corsica, Northica.
Corsica is Northica. Sardinia is south.
Is it north of the
See what they did there?
Sardines are bad, and when you say that
Technically, yes.
down, it's down.
Okay. Or some students have looked at the islands and thought, since this one's larger, it weighs more, so it's like below the one that's a little bit lighter. Yeah,
2 R's.
2 R's. I did? I think that might be the first time ever. All right. Thanks. Thanks. I think you all probably know the island that's at the bottom or the southern coast of Italy.
Definitely not Sicily.
It is Sicily, you're correct. So we have Sicily, and then we had Sardinia before, and Corsica, exactly. As far as this immediate region goes, we said that Rome was just about the middle of this peninsula of Italy. If you slide down a little bit, you should label on your map. Don't. Stay with me. Okay. This city here is Naples.
Naples, Florida.
It's on the coast, yes. Naples was a coast city.
Is it by the Adriatic coast or
The Tyrrhenian coast.
one of like Staples without ice
Yes.
cream?
He knew that, obviously. Naples.
If you've ever been to Naples,
Naples?
Florida, it's like that.
It is. And it was so named because it's as luxurious as this Naples once was. Naples is right by another city that you might be familiar with,
Wait, there was one?
Pompeii.
Are you serious?
Am I?
Did you not know
You
Right.
really not know the story of Pompeii?
Pompeii.
Pompeii was a song.
It's also a song, yes. Pompeii and Herculaneum are two cities that lived in the shadows of Mount Vesuvius that were completely and utterly destroyed when Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 AD.
And now they're
How come
fine.
Herculaneum is not as popular as Pompeii?
Pompeii had more, well, it had more people, but it had more Gesundheit, destruction, which on one hand sounds terrible, Gesundheit, but because it had so much more people and so many more people and so much more destruction, we have many more relics and surviving pieces of Roman life from Pompeii than we do Herculaneum. So it's more important to us. Wise?
There's this really interesting thing that I was reading about how Pompeii, because of its location to Vesuvius, the way that the bodies were preserved were like casts, while Herculaneum, because it was farther, it like literally ate through the bone. So like the gases like preserved it differently, even though it's like only a certain distance away.
Absolutely, yeah. It's crazy earth science. We actually happen to know a volcanologist. How many people can say that they know a volcanologist? Our kids are preschool friends with this family, and she's like a pioneering volcanologist from Canada, and she loves going to volcanoes and studying them and stuff. She hasn't ever been to Pompeii though, so.
Are you kidding me?
Should bring her.
I'm gonna pay for her flight.
I haven't even been to Pompeii. Come on, yeah.
I'm gonna pay for her flight.
Sorry, Pompeii is right near Naples here. There's like a little piece of Italy that kind of comes out, it kind of juts out a slight tiny bit. You might not be able to see it on your map. It might be kind of imperceptible there, but it's here on my map.
Here we have it.
Ooh,
Okay.
it's so small.
Yeah.
My family decided that Pompeii was too boring, so we decided to go to a beach instead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're so lame.
I might get it.
Two other things to note in Italy before we're able to move on to other places. First, on the heel here, on the back of the boot, is a famous port city, and this port city is called Brundisium.
Someone can say Australia.
Brundisium.
Like New Brunswick.
Brundisium, right. Brundisium is the port city through which everyone had to travel when they went from Italy to Greece. And as you can imagine, that was a pretty popular route of travel.
Why didn't they go in the tub?
Because it's a longer journey than
Get
just...
lost like
I mean, look at how short this distance is. It's not bad.
It's like Alaska to Russia.
If you lived at the toe, wouldn't you just go like straight across? And it's about like closer than going
So
around?
true.
Lived at the toe?
Yeah.
And
You
went
just go, like,
across?
diagonal like that.
Isn't that a longer distance than that?
But what if you
You
lived
could
in the
travel
tub?
around Italy as well, right?
But if you can't see this from where you are, But in Greece, there is a very major roadway that goes right from here, which is a city called Dyrrhachium, and the roadway travels all the way south to get you to Athens. So if you travel from this port city is the end of the Appian Way. You go here, you're on another major road, and you're done. This entire coast of Greece, rather, has mountains. So if you sail there, you just end up in mountains versus ending up at a port that has a road attached to it. So, yeah.
It looks like a little water gap.
Gulf of Mexico.
Down. How about we come up?
Between this strait here,
No.
come on up.
Right. Wait for me.
Gulf of Mexico.
You can come up.
Oh, can I?
Yes, you can.
Right. Oh, here. Where are they trying to go?
Anywhere in Greece. I mean, Athens was the most popular destination.
So they could just go here and be like, oh, let's chill over here. From right like there. And this is not closer than here, then.
Well, they also used this port too. It wasn't like unheard of.
Okay, I got you.
And then there is the mountain range that goes through the center of Italy. Does anybody know what the mountain range in the center of Italy is called?
Appalachian Mountains.
Actually, the Appalachian Mountains are here in the United States of America.
Oh, what we
Parts of New Jersey are on the Appalachian Trail. Appian Way is a road through Rome.
What's the first letter?
Yeah.
Aruba.
Appalachian, Appian, Appiano, Appian.
They're called the Apennine Mountains. And if you call them by their correct pronunciation, the Apennines, you will remember that they form the spine. Apennines are the spine.
Apennine spine.
Yes,
I don't get it. Does it rhyme or something?
a little bit.
Apennine spine.
So the Apennine Mountains is this very long mountain range that runs through Italy, the central part of Italy.
Should I draw a line?
Yeah, or maybe draw like, little mountain symbols. Yeah, exactly.
Or I need brown for that one.
Okay.
Where is it?
Take my color.
Can I have brown too, please?
You get yourself.
Can I, no, the colored pencils. Colored pencils.
This would look really good.
What's wrong with you?
Literally, it's like what you can have it. You can have it.
Okay, let's move north, shall we? When you move north, if you look here, there is a river in the north of Italy, and this is a very, well, this is not the river. This is the river I was talking about over here. If you see on my little map here, it's located near a city named Ariminum. And the river is a very famous one called the Rubicon.
Rubicon River. And then that guy crossed it and rode towards
A very famous dictator named Julius Caesar. Well, he wasn't dictator at the time, in all fairness. But Julius Caesar had just fought a war successfully. He was trying to get back to Rome. He was informed that in order to get back to Rome, he had to disband his army. He chose not to disband his army, so he crossed this very famous Rubicon River with his army. The Rubicon was considered the northern boundary of Rome. And so by crossing it with an army, he was essentially declaring war on Rome, which was his country. When you get to Latin 2, we'll talk about how there were some very legitimate reasons why he would have done that. So he gets a bad rap for it. But he crossed the Rubicon. And he said a very famous quote when he crossed it. Does anyone know what the quote is?
I'm coming through.
No,
make
actually.
There's three.
Make way.
Nope.
Make way.
It's not the one you're thinking of. The quote that he said,
Carpe diem.
he said the die has been cast, which is the Latin for which is alia jacta est. And by the die has been cast, he was actually talking about, when you play games with dice, a single version of a dice is called die. So the die has been cast. Fortune has been revealed already. I have only to follow it at this point. His other quote that Sarah's trying to think of is Weni Weedy Wiki, which means I came, I saw, I conquered. And that statement is all about Caesar's, it's really a statement of his arrogance, but his extraordinary skill as a general. But that was actually not uttered when he went to conquer Rome. It was actually uttered when he was in the Middle East. He was returning from a successful military campaign in Egypt. He found a general named Pharnaces in the Middle East, and he very effectively and quickly conquered his army in a matter of hours. And so he summarized his efforts in the Middle East as, I came, I saw, I conquered. Not bad, right? Or a winner, depending on which side of the coin you have flipped.
It's not for the leader. Like, anybody's just going to say that to all these people that he just beats.
He didn't say it to the people he just beat, he said it to the Romans.
No, because like the senator sent it out. I think it was something like it was kind of like a deal.
He's a loser, I don't
Went there
care.
and he sent
Why?
Moving even more north, we have another mountain range. What is this mountain range called at the northern part of Italy? In current society, this mountain range is also in Switzerland. It's in the Alps, exactly. Very good.
My friend, they live there.
Cool.
And they they don't speak French, but they've lived there for like 10 years. They live in like a French house. And it's really weird. We should visit them.
The Alps is a very extensive mountain range, and there are Alps mountains that are in Italy, there are Alps that are in Switzerland, there are Alps that are in France. I believe there are also Alps that are in Austria. I'm not 100% sure.
Alps in the Ridgewood High
at the
School.
border.
Yeah,
Switzerland is entirely in the Alps.
yes.
That's the Swiss Alps, am I right?
Can I have my photographer just take a picture of those terms? No,
Get in there.
Swivel's my videographer. Caroline's my photographer.
You would have murdered somebody for that charity.
Thanks.
How about you?
Okay, does anybody know what the ancient country of Switzerland is called?
It's not Gaul.
That's true. Switzerland used to be called Helvetica, not to be confused with the font of the same name.
I love that photo.
We got in backyard soccer, like 02. There's a guy who was named Tony, had really big hair, and his last name is Helvetica.
Years old.
Francis, my trainer, said I would never be good at soccer.
After you get through Helvetica, you encounter the very, very large territory known as Gaul.
There's like a lot of things.
Because they look like chickens.
Gaul is what we call it now. The Latin name would be Gallia. Exactly. Caesar was very famously sent as a consul to be the military leader of the campaign against the Gauls. And he conquered Gaul in almost 9 years or so. Now you're like, 9 years, that's a long time. However, the entirety of Gaul was allegedly about 3,000 square miles. That's a lot of territory to conquer, and a lot of people to conquer too, who were very fiercely fighting for the Romans not to conquer them. But the Romans prevailed.
Is it like all these little pieces?
Yes, yes. So it's all the little pieces north of here. So it's where France is currently. It's where Belgium is currently. And, you know, little tiny nations in there like Liechtenstein and things like that. Yep. Yeah, there should be 3 regions on your map that make up Gaul. So color in all 3 regions.
And then is this region right here, Helvetica?
No, Helvetica is north of Rome.
So is it like this little piece? Like this little piece or this little piece?
No, it's where you wrote Italy.
Oh my god. Wait, where'd you write Italy?
He wrote it like
Right
here.
on the top of Italy. I see no separation in that place.
All right, there are mountains that separate Gaul from Hispania, which are the same mountains that today separate France from Spain. What are those mountains called?
The Spanish.
No? Nope. There's a dog named after them.
Golden
Shepherds.
Retriever.
The shepherds. Fido.
They're called the Pyrenees Mountains.
Or they're
Oh,
just
I
really
thought they were
ugly.
called the
Not ugly. I
pirates.
didn't mean ugly. I meant
Here.
Skinless?
not my
No pants.
favorite.
They're called,
I meant to say hairless.
It doesn't have skin.
Great Pyrenees dogs are big, white, fluffy dogs. If you live around Somerville, there are a lot of them around there. And I know that because my parents used to have one. And Maggie was a very...
Your whole life is literally set up to be like a lot and like teach them.
It is.
Oh,
It
yes.
is.
Okay, just so fun.
So right here is Ashura.
Can you show me? Can you show me? And this is Pyrenees.
The Pyrenees are here, dear, between France and Spain. So Christina, more mountain shapes here on your map for the Pyrenees Mountains. Yes, Pyrenees are big, white, fluffy dogs. There's one who lives almost across the street from Somerville, next to the tennis courts.
Oh my god, that thing is huge!
Yes, his name is Magnus. He's like the biggest lap dog in the world, apparently. My parents are friends with Magnus's parents, as it is.
What's the last one?
Lee, Christian and Sarah.
Do not know.
When I was trying out for tennis, that dog would just sit there barking.
Oh, he barks a lot?
Yeah, he does, barks a lot, but he's really cute.
Yeah.
And then I just,
Why do you think a mountain range is called Golden Fever? I'm still...
Yeah, I'm still stuck on that too, Ben, don't worry. All right, so then we come to the country that is now known as Spain, and to the Romans it was called Hispania.
What do we need in Spanish?
There was no Portugal back then. Hispania.
It's this whole little lump between the Mediterranean and that little opening.
Yes, that is why it's called Hispanic. There is a little province called Lusitania, which is where Portugal was, but it wasn't a very important province for the Romans.
Okay, I'm just calling the whole thing blue.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But we're all glad that Portugal is there because Magistra's part Portuguese. So we're good. Magistra's part Portuguese.
Can you speak Portuguese?
No, actually. My grandfather immigrated from Portugal, but he didn't want to teach his kids Portuguese because he didn't want them to look like immigrants. So,
That's a solid reason. Go ahead.
That's why my great-grandfather got rid of his Russian accent.
yeah, it was a weird thing in that day. It was like a concerted effort. We don't want to look different. We want to just be American. And you know, to this day, we all wish that my grandfather would have taught, but he also passed away in 1983, so that kind of changes the game a little bit. Alrighty, Roo.
Already,
Yes.
Oh my god.
Just as a point of clarification, do you know what this little strait is in between Straits of Gibraltar? That's what you were going to
Yeah,
say.
I find Gibraltar City and the Rock of Gibraltar.
Yes, there's a big rock. It's like the Glen Rock, only it's actually a big rock.
Who's my favorite character?
Just a giant rock.
Well, it marks this sort of entrance to the Mediterranean Sea.
The thing is Glen Rock is not special because of their huge drive.
Alrighty. So here we get to the Mediterranean Sea, which was the body of water that pretty much allowed Rome to exist. The Romans called the Mediterranean Sea Mare Nostrum.
Nailed that one.
So if I tell you that mare is a neuter word, why is nostrum end with a um?
To match it.
Exactly. Mare nostrum means our sea. Our is an adjective that describes the sea, which means it's going to have the same kind of ending. And now you know that that's a neuter ending.
I just read mine.
All right. Traveling. Say it again. Yeah. Traveling through Africa, we get to the very important city of Carthage here, which is on the northern African coast. Carthage is spelled like this. There are two important factors that you should know about with respect to Carthage. The first one is that when Aeneas left Troy from the Trojan War, and he had his very extensive 10-year journey around the Mediterranean to try to found Rome, he landed at Carthage for a while. And in Carthage was a queen named Dido. And Dido and Aeneas fell in love, although to a certain extent it was more Dido loving Aeneas than the other way around, but Aeneas was kind of okay with it because she provided him comfort, etc. But then, the gods and goddesses were hip to the fact that he was staying too long, and Mercury had to come and tell him, look, this is not Rome. This is not the thing you're supposed to found. This is already an existing civilization. And so he left her and went to Italy. So this was his last, really...
Yeah, and she lit like an altar on fire and had a sword in the middle, and she went like, I don't think she's back.
Actually, no. The story in the Aeneid is that she had her sister help her build a funeral pyre. Didn't tell her sister the whole time that the funeral pyre was for herself so she could commit suicide. And then she climbs on top of it and says, okay, light it. And her sister was like, but no, I will not light this. And Dido was just too bereft and said that she had to do it. I know. Yeah.
This is not related.
That's okay.
Do you know over the Punic Wars?
Yes. So what Greg is alluding to are the extensive Punic Wars. So in the 3rd and 2nd century of Rome's existence, Rome fought a series of 3 very violent wars with Carthage.
What I don't get is, how did Hannibal not get to Rome?
He did.
But
Like, what they
why
did
did
was
he
they
go
took the
down
army
to
of Rome and they went somewhere else, so that it was like following them. It was like cat and mouse, but across the...
Yeah.
But like,
So, well, the
it's
gist,
Rome.
the 10-second gist of Hannibal's tale is that he thought that he was going to surprise the Romans because he was going to come from the north. He decided to travel through Spain and around through the Alps to get to Rome. He also thought, if I bring elephants, then they will be totally surprised. What he didn't realize is that Spain is actually really far from Rome, so it took him a really long time to get there, and the Romans had heard, through a series of networks that they were coming. And then, by the time he got there, put on your surprise face, elephants aren't really cut out for surviving in snowy mountain territory. Right, so by the time he arrived in Rome, there were 3 left. I don't know if that's an exact number, but... So whatever impact whatever impact he wanted to have was completely dissipated. So he got there, but he may as well not have done anything.
They won, right? They won the second one?
Oh, the Romans won all 3.
Why was...
Just they only really conquered Carthage in
The third one where they poured salt over their land.
And then
Allegedly. Nobody has actually proved that.
Yeah, they enslaved
My stomach hurts.
Sorry. All right, so this is Carthage, which is here. We're going to move through the northern coast of Africa, where we get to Egypt. You all know how to spell Egypt, right? The Latin word for Egypt, though, I will give that one to you, is Aegyptus. See how they did that? I don't know why they called it Aegyptus. Weird. So here's the Nile River. I don't know if you can see this on the map, but the Nile is actually this very, very, it's represented here very thick, but it's a very, very wide and rich river. And it pours into the Mediterranean Sea. I don't know if you can see this, but there are several different mouths of the river that flow into the sea. In ancient literature, it's called the seven-throated Nile, because there are 7 ways through which the Nile emptied to the Mediterranean. But considering Egypt has a very dry and desert-like climate, the Nile actually provided a lot of very fertile resources. In fact, papyrus was almost exclusively farmed in Egypt because it was farmed on the banks of the Nile. So papyrus, the paper that people wrote stuff down on, you have to have paper, right? You're a literate society. You write stuff down. So if you want papyrus, you have to be friendly to Egypt to be able to get their resources. Right. So Rome always was they were never at war per se, but they were always really trying to get control of Egypt to try to make sure that they wouldn't have to pay a lot for said exports. Did you have a question?
I was talking about mangoes. Never mind.
Okay. There was a very famous queen of Egypt. Does anyone know her name? Cleopatra, right.
my brother Ptolemy, and then Cleopatra liked Augustus and Julius. No, not Augustus.
Anthony.
Alright, do you want to hear something about mangoes?
Mark Antony. Mark Antony.
Not right now.
Anything about mangoes?
So yes, Julius Caesar had an affair with Cleopatra when she was quite young. She was about 16,
How old was he?
Like 50.
older.
So,
my
busing,
Oh, well, by a lot of accounts, Cleopatra pursued this relationship. She was very
She
ambitious.
came in like a carpet and then nothing else.
Yep. So, then she had an affair with another Roman, Mark Antony, right? But then,
Mark Antony divorced
So basically the whole like
his
third
wife for
trial.
Cleopatra, and then Rome didn't like that, so then they allowed Octavian to win the war.
Absolutely.
You're majoring in history.
which is wonderful.
I think my brother might be majoring in history, like a second major, not a first
I
major.
just remember
Cool.
this up in college.
All right. The last thing we're going to talk about is this island right here. Anyone know what this island is called?
Not Israel.
It's Cyprus.
Cyprus.
Cyprus. Cyprus.
Are you serious?
Look at the color. What country is associated with Cyprus?
Sardinia.
Look at the color.
It's salmon.
Africa.
Athens, Greece.
Asia.
Greece.
I said
Wow, it's a greasy Sardinia.
All right.
I'm at it.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
You
Class dismissed.
When the bell rings. And what is the river in Egypt called?
Nile.
Mississippi.
The Nile, exactly.
By the way, the theme is pronounced Thames. I just learned that. because-
I know, it's a mind-blowing pronunciation. It looks like it should not be that, but it is.
Sounds like James.
The very famous river in England, it's spelled Thames. Ames, but it's pronounced the Thames, or Thames.
It's like time. Oh my
Because it's
god.
Celtic.
It's pronounced like thyme. It's
I was in
spelled
Britain
thyme.
and I said
Thyme.
Thames and everyone looked at me like.
Oh, I'm sorry, you had to find out that way.
I was like, oh, okay.
All right,
Well, you're.
see me for a conference about Santa. All right. What? We have to talk.
About Santa.
The big guy.
What?
You know,
The big guy.
the big
red
guy,
one.
the big red elf.
Not that one.
All right, on the eastern side of the Mediterranean Sea, the Romans didn't really differentiate a lot of the countries that we have there today. They did have Israel. They did have, well, they had a land around Israel. They did have the city of Jerusalem. The Romans were notoriously terrible to the Jewish people. There was a really, really significant battle, I suppose.
Where they were on the hill in a fortress, and then they decided to kill us all 500 people.
Yes.
Sitting there.
Yeah, there was this huge siege, and the biggest problem of there's the siege itself, which is a huge problem from a historical standpoint. I mean, why the Romans were so wildly intolerant of new anything, much less a new religion that didn't feature, Jupiter and Juno. But not only was the siege like horrible and a very tragic loss of life.
Israel after our ancient enemy, the Philistines. They named it Palestine because they don't know how to say Philistine.
Really,
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
That's where Palestine comes from.
Okay. But the Emperor Titus, who did this horrible destruction in Jerusalem, not only did he execute this horrible destruction, but then when he came back to Rome, they all celebrated him, and they made an arch to honor his battle behavior.
Yeah, but
which
they-
is
they-
like,
Muslims
when they
came and
destroyed-
took it back for the Jews and the Muslims.
yeah.
But then they
yeah.
built a mosque over our temple,
Which one?
the rock.
It's next to your temple. Your temple
On the
wasn't
temple
there.
now. No, on
Your temple wasn't there. There was
All
like
right.
a wall.
I think there's
So,
tension.
as you can see, Jerusalem is still, it's got a lot of, conflict going on still.
A little bit.
Too much.
The Romans were also there. They probably invented conflict in Jerusalem. Go Rome.
Yeah.
You can see they really didn't differentiate very much space over here. All right, we were talking last time about Cyprus. I think that was the last topic we got to. And Cyprus, we said, was colored the same color as Greece. And in fact, it is technically a Greek island, but it's located much closer to
Turkey.
Turkey, right. So Cyprus is a hotly contested place. But there's a sense of nationality to people who are from Cyprus. And one of the ways I know this is that my high school English teacher, who is no longer here, Mr. Eftehu was his name. And on the very first day of school, he introduced himself to us as not just Mr. Eftehu, but he said, I'm Greek Cyprian. So it was like we had to pay attention to the fact that he was not, mainland Greek guy. So this is Cyprus. Let's see here. What else should we identify over here? If you notice on this map, I don't know if you can see the word, but this is Asia. So the Romans just called it Asia, right? Romans, famous for their intolerance of people and places. This very vast region of lots of different peoples, they called Asia.
That's Asia Minor, though, geographically.
Geographically, yes, but that's more of like a region. Like you would never say, I'm going to go to somewhere in Asia. You would like say the country name. But that's more of a continental thing. It's okay to go to a continent.
I'm going to Asia. See that?
All right. Over here, I don't think this is on your map, but your map does not go this far. But I just wanted to point this out here. This is the Empire of the Parthians. And there was a very famous ally of Caesar, whose name was Crassus. Crassus was known for his extraordinary wealth that he got through immoral means. And he was very famous for being kind of arrogant and immoral, too, Crassus. And he led a campaign of the Romans into Parthia. And the reason that he died, by many legendary accounts, the reason that he died in that battle was because all the omens that they read before the battle said, this is a bad day for battle, don't do it. And Crassus was like, I can take on the Parthians, we'll be just fine. Dies in battle. Don't go against the omens, folks. All right, in the northwest corner of this area is a little tiny country that's very famous to you all. No?
Rome. Oh! I know it.
There was a really big war about it.
300.
America.
Speak!
Troy.
Troy, yes. This is Troy on the northwest corner. What is this country called in 2016?
Turkey.
Turkey, exactly.
Wait, so is it like,
No, where is it?
It's a little hard to spot on your map, but here's what you're looking for. You're looking for this area of Turkey. You're looking for the northwest corner. It looks like it's right on the water. It looks like it's almost in Greece. There should be a very, very narrow strip of land.
Wise. The wall of the, that's the outer wall of the temple. It wasn't actually part of the temple. That was like a wall to the courtyard. It wasn't, the rock is built on the temple now.
What do you guys talking
It's
about?
just to let you know. it's
Jerusalem.
back.
Oh.
But I think that we can both agree that times were better afterwards than the Romans.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go.
Yeah. Ottomans were nice to us.
Why is such a peacemaker? Look at that.
He's very diplomatic.
Yeah.
Should be a
One of his great features. So we talked about Troy as a source for war because it's right here on this very narrow sea passage that would connect travel from the Black Sea and Asia to the Mediterranean Sea and Rome. The country that fought Troy, though, is over here. What is this country?
Greece.
Greece. Good.
Nice.
So where is it?
This peninsula is Greece.
Which one? Greece.
There is, this is the Black Sea. You all have the Black Sea on yours. Please label the Black Sea. Oh, I should start our list of labels here.
It's in between Greece and.
This is the Black Sea.
It's where Crimea is.
There's Crimea, right. All right. We
Crimea
identified
River.
Troy. We identified Turkey.
Crimea Sea.
We talked about Cyprus. I think Cyprus might have been on our original list, but that's okay. We talked about Jerusalem.
I'm an idiot. I'm just the biggest idiot. I said Black Sea and I just heard sea.
Okay. One of the regions of Greece that's just north of Troy is a region called Thrace. And Thrace was famous chiefly for producing very strong gladiators.
where is Cyprus? Is that, that's, and then where, wait, let me just write that in. Okay, really quickly, and then where's, Jerusalem, wait, Cyprus. Where's Jerusalem?
Estimate that.
Is that like?
There's is the Dead Sea on yours? On your map?
Is it like, okay, I know where it is, wait,
Okay.
and
Do you see this little line that goes up?
yeah,
This little line is the northern border of what would have been called Palestine by the Romans, and about 60% of the way south in the province of Palestine is the city of Jerusalem.
I'm just going the whole thing, man. Ready, got this. You got it.
Was there another question? Or
Where is, wait one second.
I wonder why I have to have this far away.
Why? You know that. Where's the race?
this region up here, just north of
I
Turkey?
got you in here.
Okay. All right. The sea that is in between Greece and Turkey, or Troy, is called the Aegean Sea.
Oh, because they changed.
The Aegean Sea is named for a king whose name is Aegeus. And in mythology, and we'll get to these stories soon, this sea that's here, there are tons of tiny little islands in there. A king by the name of Aegeus had to sorrowfully say goodbye to his hero son, Theseus, when Theseus went on a journey to become his hero self. And Aegeus, when Theseus left, he made Theseus promise him that when Theseus returned from his heroic journey, that he would change the sails on his ship from black sails to white sails, so that King Aegeus, who was watching him approach on the Acropolis at Athens, he could immediately see when the ships were coming in if his son was victorious and coming home to him, or if his son was coming home for him to bury. An instant visual recognition. For a variety of different reasons that shall be discussed later, Theseus forgot to change his sails, and King Aegeus jumped off of the cliff into the water below that now bears his name.
Terrible.
It is terrible.
How did you forget?
That's so lame.
It's like the only thing. You should have been
No,
starting.
it's because wasn't he depressed about his wife because he forgot the island?
That was, or he was drunk.
No, Christina's right. So here's the 4-minute version. Theseus is his son. He is Athenian. The mythology suggests that every year Athens had to send sacrifices to this island of Crete. So you can go ahead and label Crete. Right, there was a minotaur living on the island. Minotaur was half man, half bull, exactly. So Theseus had to go and conquer him. In Crete, he was met by the princess of Crete, whose name was Ariadne. The names are not necessary for you for mapping purposes. We'll talk about their names another day. So Ariadne, the princess, comes and helps him out, and in exchange, he agrees to marry her. So he conquers the Minotaur. They start sailing away, and they stop off on an island, which is right here. It's probably not in your map. That's fine. It's called Knossos. And they stop off on this island, and while they're there, they have quite a big party. And while they're at the party, Bacchus, the god of wine, the god of revelry, who's sponsoring all this joyous celebration, Bacchus falls in love with Ariadne and decides that he wants her and not Theseus. So he curses Theseus so that when he wakes up in the morning, he forgets that he has this wife. And he packs up all the ships, and they start sailing away. And then there's poor Ariadne left on a beach, all alone.
With a god.
With a god who's willing to do that to somebody, I'm not sure if I'd want my life to be spent with that god. So, in a great poem that's written by one of the poets that you'll read in Latin 4, Catullus, he really tells this very heart-wrenching story from Ariadne's perspective, that she's standing on the beach and she is screaming just awful, awful things towards Theseus, who's sailing away and can't hear her at all. She doesn't realize that she's been cursed. She thinks that Theseus is legitimately leaving her. And because of that, she throws all these curses his way. And she basically says, I hope that you have sadness for the rest of your life, and I hope that you never encounter happiness in your family because I'm not in your family, and how dare you do this? And she accuses him of treachery in, 1,400 different words. And as it happens, because of his drunken stupor, or because of the fact that Ariadne was cursing him, that's why he forgot to change the sails. It seems like you had one job. Why couldn't you do the one job? I know, but this is mythology.
You could have written it on the boat, too.
Yeah, exactly.
We could have used this iPhone and reminded him.
Right. Hey Siri, remind me to change my sails tonight.
It must be Siri.
Right. Siri.
Dear dog.
All right, so this island down here is Crete. We'll get to other Cretan stories later. This northern area of Greece we haven't talked about yet, but it's an area called Macedonia. Macedonia is its own country, and to a certain extent, back in the Roman conquest of this area, it was also its own country back then. Sort of. It was more considered.
The country right now is technically not what Macedonia was in ancient times.
That's true.
So the people in Greece don't call it Macedonia. They call it
That's true.
Greece.
That's true. Now, there's a big beef that still exists between the Macedonians and the Greeks, and it's all about, as Wise suggested, Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great was one of the most fearsome and successful conquerors the world has ever seen. He did all of his conquering in the 4th century BC. He was really phenomenal at what he did. Everyone loves Alexander the Great. Cities are named after him. Children are named after him, even in this, current year. However, he was from the area of Macedonia, which at the time was under Greek rule. So is he a Greek hero or is he Macedonian?
He's Greek. Greek, because Macedonia is still part of Greece, but the actual country Macedonia is not where Macedonia is.
If you'd like to have further debate about this particular issue, feel free to strike up conversation with Miss Maximov in the English department.
Actually, I will.
Actually, because she's Macedonian.
Yeah.
She has a lot of knowledge about this subject. So, all right, let's see here. And then we're coming back here. And then this is an ancient Roman province called Illyricum. I'm going to write it down for you because it's a hard word to instinctually spell. But Illyricum is where we have a lot of modern day countries. There's also a river called the
Wait, where's
Save.
Illyricum?
Illyricum's here.
Is that like your
Yeah. Bosnia is over there. Serbia is over there. Croatia's over there.
Where's Greece?
I know someone from Croatia.
It's like there's Greece and there's a big
I think we forgot to get to this country yesterday. So bear with me here. This very vast area up north, this is Germany. The Latin word for which is Germania, exactly. The Romans were never really able to successfully penetrate the borders of Germania in any sort of productive way. But the German region was where we get the Goths from. And the Goths were the ones that legendarily took over Rome when Rome fell. One of the sort of driving theories... Say it again?
Did they wear black?
They did wear darker clothes. I mean, they were from a much more primitive region. They didn't have a lot of the civilization advancement that the Romans had brought to other regions that they had conquered. So it's very possible that more of their clothes were dark than lightened and things like that. But yeah, the old adage is that Rome fell because the Goths invaded. To a certain extent, that's true, because when the Goths, definitely the Germanic tribes, were the ones that eventually started taking over many regions of Europe, including Italy. But for Rome to fall to an enemy invading tribe, they had to have been a very weak country at that point in time. So through a series of, say it again?
The Huns took
I don't think the Huns took them.
The Hun.
Right.
Let's
Was that,
So we have Germany to thank for the fall of Rome, technically, I suppose. We also have Germany to thank for the old Magistra, who's part German.
that's
So-
basically that,
What that?
that was, never mind. When you
I say Gesundheit when you
Yeah,
sneeze, yeah.
Gesundheit,
Yeah, my
definitely.
grandmother taught me that. So, all right. Any questions about global geography? All right, fantastic. Open your workbooks, please.
Whoa.